We'll be going on in just a second. I'm letting a couple more people join, and then we'll get going. Thanks, Rose. I thought this was an appropriate song with everything going on with the coronavirus, so that's why that's why I chose this song. I actually got the idea from Christina. We'll be going on in just a second. We have 4 main groups of people. So let's say we have, this is going to be all the way to the left. So let's say we have progressives over here. And then we have Democrats over here. And then we have conservatives here. And I'm not really sure what to call the others, so we'll just call them the far right. Okay, so we're talking about like neo-Nazis in the alt-right and people like that. We'll just call them the far right. Okay, so we have straight down the middle. Nobody should really be in the middle. Okay, like people who say that they are right in the middle, people who don't really like where they can't really identify as one or the other. These are people who don't really have an ideology. They probably don't have a very strong moral system. They probably don't understand their own beliefs, and their beliefs just kind of flow with the wind. They'll just take whatever sounds good to them in the moment. Okay, so these are people who don't really have a sound ideology at all. So let's start with a progressive. So anybody who's on the left will be progressive or Democrats. And their main priority is going to be, let's say, equality. All right. So if you're on the left, your main priority is equality. And if you're on the right, your main priority is going to be liberty. So your main priority is going to be like your rights and what you're allowed to do under the law. As a right-winger, those are going to be your priorities. Whereas if you're a left-winger, your main priorities are going to be equality, making sure that everybody has the same laws, the same rules, that we all live similarly. Okay, and that's I mean, it's a simple example. Like if you look at something like Medicare for all. Okay, so Medicare for all is a way for the left to try to, and it's not just Bernie Sanders. You look at any Democratic presidential candidate right now, and they all have their own insurance plan, some sort of new medical insurance plan for everybody in the country, a government subsidized medical plan. So doesn't matter which one you pick, they all have one, and that's because they all have a belief in equality, that if one person has health insurance, we should all have health insurance. Okay. So the main issue is going to be equality over there. And then if you're in the middle, then you just get a big question mark. You have no clue what it is you believe or what you're doing in life. And that doesn't mean that you can't be farther towards the middle. This is a spectrum, and we'll have just a big line straight across, and you can be farther towards the middle as a conservative, or you can be farther out towards the left as a progressive, or farther towards the middle as a Democrat. Like, this is a spectrum, okay? So you are able to be closer to one side or the other, but it's really, you can't be both. I'm sorry. You cannot be both a Democrat and a Republican. It just doesn't work that way. You have to have an ideology that works. You have to have a moral system that is consistent. You have to know what you believe. And so if you align with one of these groups as either a progressive, a Democrat, a conservative, or in the far right, then you're going to know what you believe. You're going to understand what it is that you're looking for in a candidate. You're going to understand, not policy-based, but like morals-based, okay? So a progressive is going to not only look for equality, but they're also going to look for equity. Okay, so equity in a, let's say, how should I put this? In a political science view, equity is going to be how should I explain this? I'm sorry. Let me think this out real quick. Equity means that you believe in, instead of just equality of opportunity, you believe in equality of outcome. So if you think, hey, 70% of white kids get to go to college, then we also need to make sure that 70% of black kids go to college. That would be equity. Whereas equality is more about equality of opportunity. It means that if the black kid has the same chance to go to college as the white kid, he just has to score well enough on his PSAs or whatever. You know, you have to score well enough on your tests, or you have to get the scholarship. You have the same opportunities as the white kid, and that's what matters, is the opportunity and how you take advantage of that. Whereas for somebody who's a progressive, they're really just only concerned about the outcome. That's all that matters, is how it ends up in the end. And if it's not fair in the end, if it's not equal in the end, then it's not really equal at all. So for a conservative, the main issue is normally going to be liberty, but under a religious view. So even somebody who is a Muslim is going to be a very conservative person. Normally in America, we think of conservatives as just Christians, but Muslims, Islam is a very conservative religion as well. Now, here's Democrats have a pretty fair, I guess, combination of things. They're fairly balanced across the board on what they believe their rights to be and what they believe equality is. And it's not that conservatives don't care about equality too. They do. It's just they overlook it sometimes because liberty is way more important to them than equality is. And so conservatives are normally going to lean towards their liberties and their freedoms and their rights more often than they're going to lean towards something that's not. And Democrats can be religious as well, but their moral systems are normally very inconsistent. So here's the thing. The farther out towards the left you get and the farther out towards the right you get, the more similar the ideologies actually start to seem. the more similar they start to think and their policies start to sound. So this is called the horseshoe theory. So this is a very crappy horseshoe, but let's look at it like this, okay? So I apologize for my mouse drawings, but let's look at it like this, okay? So over here, you're going to have a Democrat. Over here, you're going to have a conservative. They are opposite ends. They are as far away from one to the other as they could possibly be, okay? They could not be any farther away from each other. They are polar opposites. Whereas a progressive is all the way down here at the bottom. And then somebody who's far right is also going to be down here at the bottom. So those two actually have closer ideologies than you would think. Their priorities aren't like rights. So a conservative would say, I have rights that are given to me by God. These are God-given rights, and the government can't give them or take them away. They can only recognize my rights. Okay, so I don't get any of my rights from any legislation that comes down from Congress or anybody else. My rights come straight to me from God. And if the government doesn't recognize those rights, that only means that they're violating my rights. It doesn't mean that I no longer have them. It just means that they are now violating my rights or in violation of my rights. So that's what a conservative would believe. Now, somebody down on the far right, they're not so worried about rights as they are how well their the country works. And that's actually very similar to a progressive. Progressives don't really care about rights. They could take all the rights away. What they care about is how well the country is doing. They want everything, whatever they believe is best for the country, we need to get that at all costs. That's all that matters. So we can take away all your rights. We can have authoritarians. We can have whatever we need. We can go socialist. We can go communist. We can go capitalist. We can go whatever you want. Anarchist. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we are getting the best outcome. And so for a progressive, all that matters is the outcome. That's it. That's actually very similar. So that's the same as a far right person. So someone who is far right is only really worried about the outcome. Okay. They're not worried about they don't want immigration, no immigration whatsoever. They don't mind having like a fascist in the White House. That's perfectly fine. They don't want, they don't care if like your rights are kind of violated. The rights don't matter very much. What matters is society. What matters is culture. That's what matters most. So they are more worried about things on a social, cultural basis, whereas progressives are more worried about things on a legislative basis. And they want everything to go through government, and they want everything to be by law. So this is why somebody like Hitler could be a Nazi, right? This is kind of a far right fascist who doesn't mind being a socialist as well. Sorry, I said this is why Hitler could be a Nazi. This is why Nazis could be socialists, because their beliefs are pretty closely aligned, at least the way that they're willing to bend on what rights are or what equality is. They're willing to bend on these things mostly based on whatever is best or whatever they think is best for their society, for the society that they want to live in, whatever that could be, whatever that ideal society is. That's what they're looking to do, and it's by any cost or Yeah, at all costs, they're willing to do whatever they have to. So this is so a progressive is more of like a Bernie Sanders. And when we look at things like Medicare for all, where we think, okay, you're kind of taking away my options, you're taking away my freedom to choose different healthcare companies. Um, you know, he could do it to where he just has a government option where, but if it's so great, we'll all just get rid of our private insurance and we'll go to the government option anyways. It'll be fine. If it's not so great, we'll still have the private, we'll still have our private insurance agencies so that they can kind of, I guess, give some competition and hold the government accountable as far as how well they're doing their healthcare system. So yeah, that's kind of how it breaks down for left and right. And this is why right wingers are going to be completely opposed to somebody like Bernie Sanders. And even most Democrats don't like somebody like Bernie Sanders. Most Democrats are not willing to listen to somebody like Bernie Sanders. They actually still care about their rights somewhat. They actually still care about whether or not they're going to have options and how much freedom they have. They still care about these things as Democrats. So they don't like somebody like Bernie Sanders, and which is why they end up with somebody like Joe Biden, who is almost a dead smack in the middle between a conservative and a progressive. He is right there in the middle. He's almost like a contingency piece. Like he's a compromise president is what he is. But progressives don't have as big of a following as you would think they do. At least not as big as they think they do. There's all of these polls all the time that say the majority of Americans support progressive policies. But these polls were eventually like looked at, and the wordings of the questions were very uncharitable. Like they weren't clear on what it was that they were asking. So if you look at some of these things, like it says support for progressive programs, paid maternity leave, 84% of Americans are in favor of it. Government funding for childcare, boosting minimum wage is at 60%. Tuition-free state public college, 57%. Medicare for all, 54%. Universal basic income, 28%. Okay, so from what I've been told, and this is coming from right-wingers and left-wingers, that these polls were total bullcrap. That they asked people like, hey, don't you think it would be great if you got free healthcare? And people would be like, yeah, I think I'd be happy with that. And so then they'd turn around and say, see, they like Medicare for all. They're in favor of it. Hey, ma'am, would you like to have paid maternity leave? She says, yeah, I would love to have paid maternity leave. It was really hard for me to go almost 7 months pregnant, still working on my feet every day. And they'd say, oh, see, she's in favor of paid maternity leave from the government, or for the government forcing businesses to do it. And that's not what they were asking. They were asking completely different questions than what their conclusions said they asked. So all of these things are not like, it's not as simple as Americans support progressive policies, because if they did, somebody like Bernie Sanders would win. Somebody like Elizabeth Warren might win, but they don't. Like Americans don't support that sort of stuff, whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. They're just not normally in favor of it. So guys who are called Bernie bros, they cry all the time. They're always very upset about the Democrats not making fun of them about how everybody calls them socialists, which is mainly Bernie's fault. I mean, he calls himself a socialist, and he's not a socialist. At least he might be a socialist by belief, but he's not a socialist by legislation. His policies are not socialist policies, okay? He is not going to get into the White House and turn the United States into a socialist country. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Bernie's thinking when he keeps calling himself a socialist like that. But anyways, Bernie bros are they're babies. And they have this term, Bernie or bust, meaning either Bernie Sanders is the Democratic nominee or we don't vote. Okay? Which not voting means they're pretty much voting for Trump. Trump is almost definitely going to win. And it's going to take everybody in order to stop him from winning. It is. Like, it would take so much to stop Trump from winning. And it's not just based on moving people over from Trump's side to the Democrats. There's lots of people who just don't vote every year. You just have to get them motivated enough to get up off their butts and go to the polls and vote. That's really what it is. It comes down to, can you motivate people enough to go vote? So this is a Bernie bro right here. This is a guy named Kyle Kullinski. I can't stand him. There's lots of progressive. There's lots of socialists. There's lots of lefties that I respect, that I appreciate their thoughts and ideas, and I watch their shows and I listen to them. But Kyle Kullinski is not one of them. Kyle Kullinski seems like he seems more like a cheerleader than a leader, right? Like, he's not on the football team. This is a guy who just wants to, he's just standing over on the side, jumping up and down with his pom-poms, talking about how great the football players are and trying to get everybody else pumped up about the football players. But he's not on the football team, okay? This is not a guy who actually has his own thoughts, has his own ideas, has his own ideology. He just, whatever Bernie Sanders says, let's go with that. Let's do that. Bernie Sanders says, hey, let's kill all the black people tomorrow. Kyle Kullinski would be on board with that, okay? He would be down with that. So this is from his show earlier. Somebody sent it to me and told me we should watch it on here, so I figured this would be a good time while talking about Bernie bros. Figured this would be a good time to watch Kyle Kullinski for a second. So I'm sorry. I totally screwed that up. I gotta turn on the sound for you guys. And then I screwed up the screen too. Should be fixed now. Okay, let's start that over.
So I'm going to give you guys my perspective on Joe Biden and why it would be so immensely difficult for me to cast a vote for him, even in a general election. How we got to this point where we are now is, in my opinion, inexcusable. And what I mean by that is the race was fractured. It was fractured from day one. It was looking like it'd be fractured through the whole thing. It was looking very similar to the 2016 Republican primary. And Joe Biden required help from all the king's horses and all the king's men of the establishment. He needed Barack Obama to make a phone call, get Amy Klobuchar and a defiant Mayor Pete to drop out for a promise of administration positions.
Hold on a second. Okay. We're going to have to look this up. I've heard lots of these lefties, these Bernie bros, complaining, saying that Obama called Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar and told them they have to drop out, and then support Biden so that he won the nomination. So we got to check this real quick. Let's see. Former Vice President Joe Biden, meanwhile, wrongly said the reason that stop and frisk. No, this is not what we're looking for. I mean, from what I can see, nobody is saying that Obama called Mayor Pete. I can't see that anywhere except for these progressive talking heads. So, well, I guess here's one. Let's look at this. This is from the New York Post. Endorsed Biden after reportedly speaking with Obama. Pete Buttigieg discussed withdrawal from the 2020 presidential race with former President Barack Obama, who advised the one-time mayor of South Bend, Indiana, to use the leverage he had amassed during the campaign, according to a report. Yes, but Obama didn't specifically encourage Buttigieg to endorse Joe Biden, his vice president, but pointed out that he should be mindful of the significant influence he now wields. Okay. So he didn't actually tell him to support Biden. Yeah, and I don't know where they're at. They're just adding Amy Klobuchar in there. I haven't heard anybody say that Obama called Amy Klobuchar. So I think Kyle Kullinski is just making that part up.
So a corrupt, smoke-filled backroom deal. They also got better.
I hate this. I hate it when they say this. It's always these progressive guys who say this. These corrupt, smoke backdoor rooms. They're these backdoor deals that are going on in smoke-filled rooms. So one, why do I care that there's smoke-filled rooms? Like, why am I supposed to assume that because they smoke or like they're smoking cigars or something that this is inherently bad? Everything that happens in this room now is now bad because they were smoking. I don't understand why they keep saying this. These backdoor smoky rooms, like, I guess you're supposed to get this idea of a bunch of rich guys in their suits sitting on these nice leather chairs with their cigars in their mouths and their brandy and their whiskey. You know, I guess that's the vision they're trying to put in your head. But to say that that's how Obama got Mayor Pete to drop out of the race and endorse Biden, that's just a ridiculous statement. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. There's no way that that's true. From the report from what we just read, it was a phone call, and he didn't actually tell him that he would get a position. He didn't tell him that he would that he needed to endorse Biden. He just told him that he had he told him that he had a lot of power and he needed to use it wisely. So he pretty much gave him the Spider-Man talk. He said, hey, with great power comes great responsibility, Mayor Pete.
O'Rourke, they trotted him out there to endorse Biden to help Biden in Texas, and it looks like that actually did help Biden in Texas. The one place Beto's liked is Texas. And that coalescing of the establishment and all of the, the behind-the-scenes movements and chess pieces moving into place. Some people call that politics, and that's fine if that's your perception of politics.
That is politics. That's simple politics. Making deals and getting people on your side. That is like number one and number two, like the two most important things in politics is getting people to like you is probably number one, And number two is making deals. If I'm going to vote for you, you got to be good at making deals. If you're not going to get any of your legislation passed, if you're not going to get any of these bills pushed through, or if you're not going to get enough people to sign off on your stuff and vote on your stuff, then like you're useless. You are completely useless. And if you can't get people to like you, then nobody's voting for you anyways. You're not going to get a coalition of people. You're not going to get a bunch of other people to help represent you and take your side on things. Like this is politics 101. That is politics in a nutshell.
Backroom deals. That's fine. My perception of politics is, how do we help the people and how do we fix problems? How do we implement policies that help people? That's my idea of politics, because I'm an outsider. I'm a simple man. I want to fix problems. I want to make this country better.
I'm just a simple country lawyer.
If your idea of politics is backroom deals, okay, fine. It is what it is. But the fact that if the field stayed fractured, Bernie Sanders won this race. He won this race. That's something that I can't get over. I cannot get over the fact that the establishment coalesced, spit in the eye of their own damn base, their own Democratic base, progressive base, and now they're going to turn around and be like, why don't you vote for our guy? I think our guy's right here, bro. Trump's bad, bro. You're right here, bro.
I did not understand anything he just said. I am sorry. I know that was obnoxious. I got to listen to it again because he seems to think this point is important.
Why don't you vote for our guy? I think our guy's right here, bro. Trump's bad, bro. You're right here, bro.
Oh, okay. He said, why didn't you vote for our guy? Our guy's right here. Trump's bad, bro. Our guy's right here. Okay.
So they're disrespectful to the left. They compare us to Nazis, brown shirts. They've,
I just went over this. The progressives are like the Nazis. They are very similar to them. We just went over this. The horseshoe theory. We literally just talked about this. That is so great. Let me see if it's still there. I mean, if you weren't here for it, we literally just talked about how there's Democrats over here and conservatives over here. Conservatives and Democrats, and they're as far away from each other as they could possibly be. But then progressives and far right people. So this is called the horseshoe theory, and they are much closer to each other. They're only worried about getting their stuff pushed through. They don't care about being all that consistent. They don't care about their rights. They don't care about the Constitution. They're more worried about molding a world that they think is best. That's all that matters to them. Whether you're progressive or far right, those are the two things that matter most. So they are very similar to Nazis. That's funny because we just finished talking about this.
They compare us to authoritarian lovers, dictator lovers. They say we're, pie in the sky, naive, stupid. They call us every bad name in the book. Bernie bros, sexist, racist, all that stuff. They call us every bad name in the book. They have to get together in smoke-filled back rooms to cut deals to prop up Biden's carcass, and then they're going to turn around and shame us if we don't fall in line for Biden. I'm not playing this game again, guys. We played this game in 2016. I told you guys, I'm in a safe state. I'm in New York, so I'm voting third party. But if I was in a swing state, I would suck it up and vote for Hillary. I'm not playing that game this time around. So Bloody Monday was something that I couldn't forgive. I couldn't get over. And also, Elizabeth Warren staying in to split the progressive vote as Biden had the neoliberal establishment coalesced around him. That's another thing I can't get over. So That's one of the reasons why it'd be so difficult to cast a vote for Joe Biden in a general election. Also, keep it real, he has severe cognitive decline. But on top of all this, put all that aside, everything I said so far, because I actually agree with the people who would say, you're putting too much of an onus on, these things. I thought you say, Kyle, it's all about policy. So isn't policy the most important thing? To which I respond, yes! So I've showed you guys this tweet before, but Joe Biden, this was off the top of my
We actually, again, we just talked about this. This is why I don't like Kyle Kullinski. He is so inconsistent. He doesn't understand his own beliefs. But it can never be all about policy. It has to be about ideology, which I guess for progressives, there is no ideology. It is more just, hey, whatever sounds good, let's do that. That's what it is. So I guess it is all about policy for a progressive. But I don't think that that's I don't think that that's very consistent. So
my head one night, by the way. Joe Biden supported the Iraq War, NAFTA, PNTR with China, the Patriot Act, TPP, repeal of Glass-Steagall, war on drugs, Wall Street bailout, the Anti-Gay Defense of Marriage Act. He opposes legal weed, wealth tax, Medicare for all, free college, and canceling student debt. So, listen, again, I'm only...
Canceling student debt might be the dumbest of all of the progressive ideas. Like, I'll admit, if I was not religious, I would probably be a progressive. And I know this is going to offend some people that I know and people that I like, and I'm sorry, but if you're not religious, you should not be a conservative. It makes absolutely no sense, okay? You cannot back up what you believe your rights to be outside of the Constitution. Whereas a religious person believes that their rights are given to them from God and not the Constitution, and that the Constitution only reflects their religious rights. If you don't believe that, then there's no reason for you to be a right-winger. It doesn't make sense. But even if I wasn't religious and I was a progressive, free college would still make absolutely no sense. I want to say people who go to college make something like an average of $100,000 more per year than somebody who doesn't go to college, and you're going to tell me that they can't afford college now? But let's look this up real quick. How much? Let's see. Americans with bachelor's degree earn a weekly average of $1,137. That's higher than the median weekly earnings of workers at all education levels, $860. Average earnings for workers with bachelor's degree work out to $59,124 per year. So yeah, people who go to college make way more money than somebody who doesn't go to college. They, according to this, median earnings of U.S. college grads earn 75% more than somebody who didn't go to college or somebody who just graduated from high school. 75% more. These are the people that you're telling me need free education, as if their education pays for itself. The government doesn't need to pay for it. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Median earnings of U.S. college grads, 74.5 greater than high school grads. Median annual earnings of Americans 25 and older who graduated from high school but did not attend college was $29,815, according to the Census Bureau's latest estimate, which was derived from the Bureau's American Community Survey data for the 5-year period from 2013 through 2017. The median annual earnings for Americans 25 older graduated from college but did not complete any level of graduated school was $52,019 a year. Let's see. Thus, the median earnings for college graduates was $22,000, or 74.5% greater than the median income for high school graduates. In fact, Census Bureau's data indicates that more school Americans complete the higher median annual earnings of their education peer group. So this is exactly what I'm saying. You earn more the more you go to college. It makes no sense for the government to try to subsidize college when college literally pays for itself. Not only that, but we already have all of these different grants and scholarships and all sorts of different things, and the loans and all of that crap. And you have all of these people complaining about how they're still paying off their college tuition when they're making way more than everybody else. That blows my mind. Let's see. We'll go back to the Kyle Kullinski video.
Student debt. So, listen. Again, I'm only speaking for myself here. But when I look at Joe Biden, I'm convinced he will fight for none of the policies I care about. None of them. None of them. If I was convinced Biden really cared about one or two of the issues I care deeply about and I thought he'd fight for them, I probably would suck it up and vote for him. Or at the very least, you'd hear me make the caveat, hey, I'm not voting for him in New York, but if I was in a swing state, I would vote for him. Another reason why it's so hard for me.
Wait, did he just say he would vote for him if he was in a swing state? Or was he saying somebody else would say that?
If I was in a swing state, I would vote for him. Another reason why it's so hard. If I was in a swing state, I would vote for him. Or at the very least, you'd hear me make the caveat, hey, I'm not voting for him in New York, but if I was in a swing state, I would vote for him. Another reason why it's so hard for me to even contemplate and consider the idea of supporting him is because I'm convinced on every single issue I care about, he's not on my side. He's not on my team. He won't fight for it. Guys, he was asked the day before Super Tuesday 2, I believe it was, oh, if Medicare for All got to your desk, namely, it got through the House, it got through the Senate, all the work is done, bro. All the hard work. Usually, corporate Democrats say, yeah, if we were starting from scratch, but we can't get it through because it's too hard. Okay, the theoretical question is, you're granted that it's done already. It already passed the House, it already passed the Senate. What would you do if Medicare for All gets to your desk? And what was his response? He'd veto it.
Dude, that is the response of almost all the Democrats. Like, outside of maybe 4 women in Congress, almost all of the Democrats in Congress are against this.
And what was his response? He'd veto it. My dad is dead because we don't have Medicare for All. He very well could be alive today if we had Medicare for All. He didn't have insurance. He avoided going to the doctor for his back pain. He went to a freaking chiropractor instead to save money. It was a tumor. By the time he went to the emergency room, it was too late. He died very soon thereafter. So Joe Biden is saying, okay, under my administration, I would pursue policies that still have your dad die, Kyle. I'm going to make it so that there are 45,000 to 68,000 more versions of your dad out there. So you're okay with people dying because they don't have health care. Sorry. This is one of my top issues, Medicare for All, for obvious reasons. And if you're saying the work is done, it's on my desk, and I'll still veto it, then I don't know what you want me to tell you. I'm not going to freaking vote for you. This is like telling the Republican base I'm against tax cuts or I'm against the wall. Okay, so then don't be mad when they don't show up. You want to reach out to me, then freaking reach out to me on policy. That's what I care about. That's what the left cares about. That's what the left cares about. It was never about Bernie Sanders' personality. It was never about his looks or how politician-y he is. No, it was about the policy. So when you tell me I'm going to veto the bill you care most about, even if all the work is done, okay, then I'm not showing up for you. It's that simple.
I know lots of people who were Bernie bros in 2016 that were all about Elizabeth Warren in 2020. I would love to have these people sitting down together so I could understand what it is that one likes over the other, or what it is that one sees that's better than the other, because it's from what I'm told, the intersectionality of or the intersectional policies of Elizabeth Warren are more attractive, and this is kind of Bernie's one weak spot, and Elizabeth Warren seems to have all of Bernie's strong suits, but also has her intersectional politics that kind of makes her a little bit of a better option over Bernie.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back with me, but I'm convinced he wouldn't fight for any of the issues that I care deeply about. So, now having said everything that I've said to this point, man, I get it. Donald Trump is genuinely really bad. Duh, that's the easy part. I would never vote for Trump in a million years. So I'm going to propose a deal with Joe Biden, his campaign, and with the establishment. So this way you can't turn around. I mean, they'll still do it, by the way. If Joe Biden loses, they'll still turn around and blame, people like us. But I'm giving them an out. I'm giving them an option. I'm giving them an opportunity. If Joe Biden and the campaign wants my vote, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, but I assume some of you are going to be with me on this, but it's up to you. If Joe Biden wants my vote, he has to pick either Bernie Sanders or Nina Turner for vice president.
Looking for the best.
I don't know what that would do. What does picking them as vice president, how does that help any? Like, I guess to me, it seems as though the vice president position until Bush was just like a kind of a joke position, and now it seems to have some weight to it ever since Bush came around. But
you might say, oh, you might think I'm being unreasonable because he's probably not going to pick them. You're right, he's probably not going to pick them. I think I'm being way too reasonable. Why? Because, again, I just told you, he's not going to fight for Medicare for all. He's not going to fight for free college. He's not going to fight for a living wage. He's not going to fight for ending the wars. He's not going to fight for legalizing marijuana. He's not going to fight for a Green New Deal. I could go down the list. He doesn't agree with me on anything. I'm a leftist. I'm a social democrat.
Okay, so this guy, he is a Democrat, but he's a progressive. Like, he called it a social democrat. Okay? He's not a justice Democrat. What he doesn't understand, and I don't fault him for this, okay? I have the same struggles sometimes where there are two candidates, I don't like either one of them, and I don't want to vote for either one of them. But in the end, if you do not vote for either one, you're just not doing anything. Like, you're not helping at all. It's not as if you're making the noble choice to abstain, okay? You're just not helping one way or the other. So say he doesn't like Trump. Him not voting for Biden actually helps Trump. If he actually didn't want Trump to win, he would vote for Biden. It's not about it's not about whether or not they align with your policies. It's about the lesser of two evils after a while. It's about these are the two candidates that the country picked, so suck it up and pick one. That's what it comes down to. And these Bernie bros are all about Bernie. It's either Bernie or bust. That's what they say, Bernie or bust. Either Bernie wins the nominee as the Democrat or they don't vote at all.
He's a neoliberal corporatist. I don't agree with him. He doesn't agree with me. Why would I vote for him? Why would I vote for him? I wouldn't vote for him. I'm giving them one last opportunity, one last out. Not only to get me, but yes, there are going to be so many people on the left who agree with me. They say Joe Biden's out of bounds. I'm not going to vote. I'm staying home. I'm done playing this game. I'm done always compromising my values and voting for people who don't agree with me at all. We're giving you an out. We're giving you an opportunity. We're giving you a chance to actually have a better shot at winning the election. Because you look at the poll numbers and it's crystal clear. There will be a decent number of people who stay home. Joe, you can't win. 80% of the youth vote went to Bernie. 70% of people under 44 went to Bernie. You think you're going to win the election without the young? It's not going to happen. And no amount of fake pandering now is going to change that. Whether you try to be cool and be with us on cultural stuff, rad, bro. Whether you do that or you pretend to support some of the policies that we know you don't support. We're not idiots.
So what, dude? So what? All that matters is that you like his policies better than you like Trump's. Or you like Trump's policies better than you like Biden's. That's all that matters. Like, that's all it comes down to. You pick one or the other. You can't say, oh, well, I want this third candidate, so I didn't get them, so I quit. Like, you do politics for a living. And then you don't vote. This is somebody who truly does not understand their own platform. They don't understand what it is that they are doing. And this is somebody with a massive platform. I mean, this video alone has 121,000 views. Okay, my biggest video has 10,000 views. So I'm amazed that somebody this big truly does not understand his own position.
Idiots. So I'm giving you an out. I'm giving you an opportunity. I will vote for Joe Biden if he picks Bernie Sanders or Nina Turner as VP. If he doesn't, I'm not going to vote for him, and you can piss off with all your crying and all your moaning and all, oh my God, I'm going to blame you, I'm going to blame you. No, blame everybody who voted for Joe Biden in the primary because they assumed he was more electable against Trump, and he's not. So blame yourself. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. It's not my fault. It's not anybody's fault who's not going to vote for Joe Biden. It's on Joe Biden to earn those votes. I'm giving him a way to earn those votes. And honestly, this is the only way, in my opinion. Because we don't believe you that you're going to fight for any of the things we want you to fight for because we see your record. We see how bad it is. So I think I might even be too kind in proposing what I'm proposing here. If you pick Bernie Sanders or if you pick Nina Turner as vice president, I will vote for you. And I will advocate for you on this show. If you don't, I'm not going to do it. And it doesn't matter how much people want to shame me. It's not going to move me. Because they're not making logical arguments.
Oh my goodness, you're not making logical arguments. Oh, this is painful. It's not about shaming this guy. It's about how wrong he is. It's about how dumb he is. And when I say dumb, like, he has a lot of information, okay? This guy knows a lot of the facts. He doesn't know how to organize these facts in his head to make sense of it. There are two candidates. You pick which one you think will have a better impact on the country, okay? Now, you don't pick either one, and if everybody thinks like you, okay, Say you think Joe Biden is actually a better option than Trump, but you don't like Joe Biden enough to vote for him, okay? And all of your other progressive guys, all of your Bernie or busters, all of you sit out this election, okay? There's no way Biden wins now. And then you are stuck with Trump, somebody who you think is worse, somebody who you do think is going to take the country in a worse direction. That's the person that you end up sticking with. That's the person that you end up helping win the election.
All I've heard so far is
we only have 3 minutes left, so we're gonna get through this, guys. It's okay.
but what about kids in cages? Barack Obama and Joe Biden put kids in cages as well. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. There was a photo that went viral of a kid in a cage, and people are like, oh, my God, look at what Trump is doing. Turns out the photo was taken back when Obama and Biden were in the White House.
That's true. That is true. There were pictures of kids in cages taken during the Obama administration. And I don't believe in this, media conspiracy to shield Obama and make him look great. But this is one case that they definitely did that. These photos did not come out of kids in cages until Trump was doing it. Then the photos came out. Everybody freaked out saying, oh, my goodness, I can't believe it. Trump's putting kids in cages. Turns out the photo was taken from 2014 before Trump was ever even elected. So that is very true.
And people are like, oh, my God, look at what Trump is doing. Turns out the photo was taken back when Obama and Biden were in the White House. So you can't – what about the kids in cages is not an argument because Joe Biden and Barack Obama put the kids in cages as well. The other thing they say is, oh, my God, look at this. Kyle's a standard white bro and he's privileged. If you look at the polling data on who is taking the position that I'm taking right now, it is overwhelmingly poor people and people of color. There's a great article actually.
Hold on. No. Okay. When it comes to polling, people of color were voting for Biden more than any other candidate. Again, okay, this is going to take forever to get through this video, but he keeps saying some stuff. I got to make sure that I am giving the right information. And I'm almost positive that Biden had the biggest minority vote. Okay, so yep, here we go. According to Politico, Biden leads handily in African American support. %48 of Democratic-leaning black voters back Biden as their choice for president, citing this time as for former President Barack Obama's vice president among reasons for their support. Senator Bernie Sanders came in second with 20% and led the field among black voters aged under 30. Okay, so there's no way that what he's saying is true. There's no way that that can be true. He's trying to tell us that black voters are actually abstaining from the election because they don't like Joe Biden. But that's not true. They like Joe Biden a lot more than they like Bernie Sanders. So that's just a complete lie. There's no way that that's true.
Is taking the position that I'm taking right now, it is overwhelmingly poor people and people of color. There's a great article, actually, I think it was in the New York Times, of black voters in a Milwaukee barbershop who did not vote for Hillary Clinton last time, and they didn't regret it. And they were like, why? Because she doesn't agree with me on stuff. She's not going to represent me. So, of course, I'm not going to vote for her. Why would I do that? Don't be silly. So, yes, you might try to pretend like check.
Oh, oh. Did he really just use an article about a barber shop to make his point? Let me listen to that again. There's no way he just did that.
Hillary Clinton last time, and they didn't regret it. And they were like, why? Because I have times of black voters in a Milwaukee barbershop who did not vote for Hillary Clinton last time, and they didn't regret it. And they were like, why? Because she doesn't agree with me on stuff. She's not going to represent me. So, of course, I'm not going to vote for her. Why would I do that? Don't be silly.
That is... This guy is so dumb.
So, yes, you might try to pretend like checking out of the system is evil and wrong and terrible. And no, checking out of the system is in itself a political position. And it's a statement. And it's a protest. And it's saying, okay, you want my vote? You got to earn it. Here are my conditions. Now, again, I'm giving you my conditions. Joe Biden's not going to fight for any of the issues I care deeply about. Any of them. And I'm not going to believe him even if he pretends to start supporting those issues. It's going to be BS. So I'm being too kind in the first place, but I will vote for you if you pick Bernie Sanders as VP or Nina Turner as VP.
So, it's hard to place Barack Obama and Joe Biden on where they stand between progressives and Justice Democrats. Social Democrats or Justice Democrats. They are almost smack dab right in between the two. Okay, they are as in between as you can get. Barack Obama, from what I can tell, seems to be the most progressive president to be in the White House ever. And Biden would be maybe the second most, or I don't know if he's more progressive or less, but I'm pretty sure he's right there. Okay. This is as good as it gets for them. This is as good as it gets. Bernie is nowhere close to taking the nomination for Democrats. Like he didn't come anywhere close. The only reason he was close when Hillary was running is because Hillary was the worst candidate of all time. And we went over how bad and how dumb Joe Biden was last week, okay? We went over that. And Hillary was worse. Joe Biden is just old and senile and dumb, okay? But Hillary was very smart, very tactical, and very evil. She was very corrupt. She had all sorts of scandals on her hand. I mean, you could just have a list that was never ending on Clinton scandals. She was the worst candidate I could possibly imagine. So the fact that Biden is this dumb and is better than her only says how bad she was. It doesn't say how great Biden is, but the point is, this is as close as you get to being to getting a progressive in the White House. And I'm sorry, but that's it. People don't support progressive policies.
Those are my conditions. Those are my conditions. So you like it, good. You don't, tough cookies, but that's what I'm proposing. And I have a petition on this. I'm going to leave it in the video description box. Please sign the petition. Please spread it around as much as possible. We're going to try to get so many people to sign this thing that it'll make your head spin. And also, let me just say credit to Jeremy Scahill for writing an article on this in The Intercept about how he proposes a unity ticket of Biden and Bernie. And he was like, rest in peace, my mentions, when he said it. So he kind of sparked the idea in my mind, and then I also added Nina Turner because Biden already said, I'm going to pick a female VP. Okay, fine, cool. You want to stay true to your word? Nina Turner. So those are my conditions. If you don't meet them, it's on you. It's not on me. And I'm done compromising away all of my values. All of them. All of them. Am I clear enough? All of them. All of the issues I care most about, he ain't going to fight for. He doesn't agree with me on. So the natural thing is for me to not vote for that person. So I'm giving you an out here. Don't say I didn't try.
He is such a baby. Now, he has 824,000 subscribers. 8,000. He does not have an audience big enough to be making demands of a presidential candidate. And I'm sorry, but that entire video was so dumb. Not just the idea that he would try to tell a presidential candidate, like, hey, these are my demands, and you either meet them or you don't. But I'll take all my people with me. That is so childish and so dumb. There's, he's got a lot of subscribers. I don't want to sound like that's something little, but if we look at somebody like Joe Rogan, who I know is like top dog, it shouldn't compare everybody to Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan is not making demands of presidential candidates. Okay. Joe Rogan has 7.81 million subscribers, and that's just on YouTube alone. Okay. That's just on YouTube. That doesn't include all of the podcast platforms that he's on, that I am also on. So if you want to listen to me in my show, this is not my podcast. This is my streaming show. If you want to watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, you can check it on YouTube, Pandora, iHeartRadio, iTunes, pretty much any podcast platform. We're there. But anyways, Joe Rogan's on all of these other podcast platforms and has millions of subscribers everywhere he goes. Actually, he said that YouTube is actually the smallest part of his show, that the podcast gets way more attention than the podcast gets way more attention in audio form